Hello everyone, welcome back to another lecture on the course Python Fundamentals Building Blocks for Aspiring Developers. We will continue with the fourth module. According to our agenda, we are at the 15th day where we will learn about scope and lifetime of variables and different scopes. So let's begin. So what is scope in programming? So it refers to the visibility of your variables that you create during programming, during coding. So variables, when we create them, they only exist during the execution of code. So once the code is executed, like once something that we have written in Python, the code finishes, the variables are also finished. They are destroyed. In the next code, if we write some other code after that, we cannot use the variables from the previous code. So, I mean, it's only logical because once you create something, everything finished, then the variables are destroyed. So we cannot use the variables again in another code. And there are two types of scope variables in Python. One is global scope and the other one is a local scope. So scope basically depends on where the variable is defined in the code. So the global scope is that the variable can be used throughout the code, irrespective of where we call it. It is defined outside a function. Any variable that is outside the function is global. By default, they can be accessed anywhere from within the code and are also accessible within a function. Now, what is a local scope? So the local scope variables are the ones which are defined inside a function. We can only access them inside a function. Once we move out of the function and we try to access those variables, we are no longer able to access those. So this is why they have a local scope, only local to the function they are defined in. If there are two functions, then both of them will have local scope. I cannot use the variables from the first function in a second function. So you see how it is different from global scope. However, we can still modify the scope of a variable from within a function, that is using the global keyword. It allows us to access a variable outside the function, but for that we have to specify that the variable is global. So for that we write the global keyword. So let's start coding and have a look at this. So let's open up Visual Studio Code. Our file is already there, Python file. So let's first see a variable. So let's say x is equals to 20. I do print x. So this is simply control F5. Okay, let me run. Okay, it has some issues probably. Yeah, that is working. So we have simply like this. Now if I have a function, let's say define, let's say add, and in fact let's say greet, just for demonstration. So I say print x and I say print hello. So if I run the code now, I am still able to see it. In fact, I haven't called this function, so I need to call this first. So I will say greet to this, run the code, and you see it prints the value of x. X is defined outside of the function, but everything that is defined outside of the function has a global scope. So if we define it like this, we can still call it within a function. However, if we have some variable y is equals to 20 and I do it like this, and here I say print the value of y like this, and if I run the code now, it says it prints the first two lines, this one and this one, because both of them are global. But if I try to print y over here, the variable that is defined within the function, it says it is not defined because the scope of this variable is only within the function. Once we exit the function, the variable is destroyed. I can, however, still print or use the function. Let me change the value. Use the variable within the function. So you see I get this value of 10 but again same error on this line. So you need to be careful of where you define it. We can also do something like this, and let's go ahead and print x over here. Okay, so we need to remove this one because we haven't defined anything as y. So you see, if I have the same variable name in the function, what it does is that it does not override this one. Let's say because x has a value of 20, within the function I have another variable x whose value is 10. Now if I print the value of x as 10, it is 10 over here. And outside the function, if I again print the value of x, this one will refer to the one that is defined outside of the function, which remains 20, that is unchanged. So everything that is overwritten here, we can say, only remains until it is within the function. After the function, it does not overwrite it over here because this variable is only within the function. So this is how both of the scopes are different. One thing we can do is that we can make this global. So how to make it global? We use the global keyword. So we say global y. Now this variable y is global and I should be able to access it outside of the function. So let me just add it here for better visibility. Global variable, we have y like this. So now you see it is over here, we print the value of y, but I can also access the value of y outside this function because it is now a global variable. Now there is some tips on general coding practices is that most of the times you do not need this global variable. It is required only very few times in programming according to some specific use cases, but most of the times it is not used as global because then it negates the purpose of using a function. So you should use it only if it is required according to your use case. Otherwise, it is recommended that you do not use global keyword because it can mess up your variables outside of the function. So that was all in this lecture. It was more about theory, and that is really important for you to understand when working with functions. So try to understand this concept and try to use this in your programming. And that was all for this lecture, and we will see you in the next lecture. Up till then, goodbye.